Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 360th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. Straight away you'll see this battle was fought on the Nordic Woodlands map, and for our 360th I wanted to do something a little bit different, something that maybe you might remember from our battles. As I say, this is the Nordic Woodland map. I like this map because you've got big wide open plains, flat wide open plains, and also you've got woods like kind of intermingled within the big wide open plain, so you can bring barbarian troops. So not only do you get the winter bonus, but you can get the woods bonus as well. You can spring ambushes from the woods as well, so this is quite a good all-round map really to fight on. Okay, our first teammate is Brotherhood member JGP, who has bought the Rome Julii faction, and if you can see there, I think he's got he's got 13 infantry and 1 archer unit. So that's 13 infantry, 1 archer unit, and I think he's got 6 cavalry. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his infantry. Can you see I think he's got mixed upgrades. He's got 7 upgrades on some units. So that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. And I think he's got some units with just, he got some units with just gold shield, gold attack on. So he's got mixed upgrades on his infantry. So that's quite interesting there. And I see he's got 6 cavalry, as we said. And let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. Yeah, he's got the 6 there. And he's got 6 upgrades on his cavalry. So he's just got gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry there. So he spent most of his money on the upgrades of his infantry. So it'll be interesting to see how well that army does. Our next teammate is the Terrible Turk. Now, when this battle was fought, the Terrible Turk was in the Brotherhood. As you can see, he's got his Brotherhood tags on there. A lot of you remember Terrible Turk, and as you can see, he's bought the Thrace faction. Very unusual faction to bring to 31k battlefield. This is one of the reasons I wanted to show this battle, because this has got unusual factions in. To bring the Thrace faction to 31k battlefield is very rare. We'll have a look at that faction a little bit later on. And our third teammate is myself, Spartan Commander, who has unusually bought the Germania faction. Now, this is a very old army from maybe 10 or 11 years ago. As you know, I like to bring old armies to the modern day battlefield. So there's our team. Different factions in this battle, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, this is one of the reasons I wanted to show this battle, was to have a look at my old Germania army, and to have a look at the Germania faction in general. Okay, so this is my old army, maybe 10 or 11 years old. As I said, I like to bring old armies to the modern day battlefield to see how well they would do. As you can see, I've got 3 archer units. Now, these chosen archers are so tough, you can use them as light infantry when they run out of arrows. If you notice, I've got 3 of those there. You need those to cover barbarian troops, because of course barbarian troops are extremely susceptible to missile damage. So you always need to bring missile troops to cover your own infantry. Okay, let's have a look at my my army a little bit more in depth. As you can see, I've got Knight Raiders. Now remember, Knight Raiders are good infantry in their own right, but they also bring a fear factor that lowers the morale of enemy troops. And if you can see, you've got 8 upgrades. They lower the morale of enemy troops, therefore making them more susceptible to routing. Okay, so I've got 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on those Knight Raiders. As I say, they're great infantry in their own right, but bringing that fear factor to destabilize enemy troops is a great thing to do. Okay, now we move on to my chosen axemen. Now, those axes that they carry are effective against armor, and used properly, these guys can cut wide swathes through heavily armored troops like Roman urban cohorts. So these guys are a force to be reckoned with if used properly. As I say, those effective against armor axes are just that, very good against heavily armored troops. Look at the upgrades on my axemen, and you'll see they've also got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on those axemen. You need to give your barbarian troops good morale, otherwise they are likely to rout. Okay, then we move on to the berserker units. Okay, the infamous berserker units, and these guys have got effective against armor maces. They got 2 hit points and are based on real characters. In Norse history, there are tales of berserkers, and these guys actually either had mental health problems, they had a cocktail of drugs, or they were drunk before they went into battle. And there are tales of seeing berserkers running around the battlefield after a battle, covered in blood and gore, naked, screaming like banshees. And they also had an aura about them outside of battle, where people kind of avoided them. So these are based on real characters, and in this game, if you look at the size of them in comparison to normal infantry, okay, so they are large individuals in compared to ordinary infantry. As I say, they got the 2 hit points, Really good attacking specifications and effective against armor maces. So they are battle-winning troops in their own right, really. And then we've got the Gothic cavalry. Now these Gothic cavalry, I think I've got 7 upgrades on them. Now these are very underestimated cavalry, and if you look at the specifications, you'll see how good they are. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the Germania faction in general. Can you see how I've got my formation there to protect my berserkers? Remember, we've seen light cavalry, enemy light cavalry units that are spark off berserkers. Remember, any enemy unit, whether it's routing or not routing, will spark off the berserkers. And of course, once the berserkers have been sparked off, when they've been activated, then the Germania general loses all control over them. So if you notice here, my formation and cavalry are there to protect the berserkers from enemy cavalry attacks. Okay, so just to say, make no mistake, Germania can be battle-winning troops. They can bring battle-winning troops. Those berserkers, the chosen axemen, and those night raiders are what I call shock troops. They really are shock troops, and used in coordination with your allies, they can, as I say, be battle-winning troops. When you use Germania, try and remember these 2 letters, T and T. And what that is for is target and timing. Okay, T and T, target and timing. Now, in coordination with your allies, you should choose where you're going to hit, and then your Roman ally should go in first to kind of the hard edge of the attack. The Roman ally would take the enemy pillars and will make the first contact with the enemy front line. You then charge your axemen and night raiders through your allies' Roman infantry into the engaged enemy infantry, with your berserkers just behind, and then you charge your cavalry in with coordination with your allies' cavalry into the enemy team. If you get the timing, the target right, in coordination with your allies, you will rout the enemy Roman team in front of you. Okay, so make no mistake, Germania can be battle-winning troops if used correctly, but if you get the timing or the target wrong and they start to take heavy casualties, the whole of the faction will rout. It's a really strange, unusual faction. Used correctly, they can be battle-winning troops, but if you use them wrongly, they will rout as one. So I thought that was an interesting look at Germania. At this stage of the battle, I thought we'd have a look at the Thrace faction, as it's brought so rarely to the 31k battlefield. If you notice there, the Terrible Turk has bought 6 archer units, okay? Now remember, those 120-man units are extremely susceptible to archer damage, so that's why he's bought so many archers. If you notice his phalanx pikemen here, I've got, I think it's 7 upgrades. So that's experience, stripe, gold shield, gold attack. And I think he's got 9 units there. And just look at the length of those pikes. Remember, enemy Roman troops have to fight their way all the way down those pikes to kill the man on the other end. That's why Roman generals are very reluctant to attack pike units head on there. As I say, I think he's got 9 of those pike units there. And as I say, he's got 6 archers to cover them. And he's got 5 cavalry, but he hasn't gone for the normal cavalry that they've got. He's gone for the armoured general units, and if you look, he's got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack on those cavalry units. Okay, so that's an interesting build for Thrace there, and it'll be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle. But as I say, those big 120-man units are very susceptible to archer fire. That's why he's got so many archers. Be interesting to see how he uses his cavalry too. And here is the enemy team. We have Cornovi tribe, or One Eye, as a lot of you will know him, and he has bought the Spain faction. Now, how often do you see Spain brought to the 31k battlefield? Have a look at his bull warriors there. If we have a close look, can you see the bull horns on their helmets, holding what I think is the sun? So those bull horns on top of their helmets are holding what I think is supposed to be the sun there. And as you can see, there's bull warriors. Very expensive, these bull warriors. A lot more expensive than urban cohorts. And yet, in battle, they are not anywhere as good as urban cohorts. That's one of the things with Spain, is that those bull warriors are too expensive, really. I see he's also bought naked fanatics. And if you look closely at the naked fanatics, look at their hair. Well spiked. See the spiky hair there? And people think spiky hair is a modern thing. Well, there you go. You can see that they were using them 1,000 years ago or so. And they're quite tough in their own right there. And then you've got the Balearic slingers. If you notice there, those naked fanatics have got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. But as I say, the bull warriors are so expensive, it is cost prohibitive to put a lot of upgrades on them. And then you can see the Balearic slingers, they've got 7 upgrades. So they've got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. They've got good range and a lot of ammunition there. And I see that the only decent cavalry that Spain have got are the long shield cavalry, but these are light cavalry. And I see that he's just put 6 upgrades on. So he's just got gold shield, gold attack. So that's an interesting Spanish army build, and it'll be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle. Their second teammate is Brotherhood member Uther, who has bought the Britannia faction. Now, Uther's very good with Britannia. He's got a good mixed army. Remember, modern day Britannia armies are usually just about 13 head herders and 6 max chariots. Well, Uther brings an old Britannia army here. If you notice, he's got a druid unit here as his general. Now remember, barbarians have got very little morale, so bringing a religious unit is very good because obviously that increases their morale. And I see he's got 1, 2, 3, he's got 8 upgrades on his general. They're his druid unit general. So that's 2 experience, stripe, gold shield, gold attack. Now we move on to the Britannia chariots. Now I believe that pound for pound the Britannia chariots are probably the best in the game. They got really good attacking specifications, but the main thing is they don't run amok. Now remember, in other battle videos we've seen amok chariots seem to be even more powerful than in normal mode, and they kill both friend and foe alike. Well, these Britannia chariots do not run amok. If you notice, they've got the driver and the swordsman there, and they've got the spikes, the scythes on the wheels, and they are a very effective unit. The rest of Uther's army is hiding in the woods, so we maybe have a look at them if we've got time later on to have a look at the rest of his army. Now their third teammate is a RTW veteran. Okay, now he's called himself Nero in this battle, but it is actually Scorpion King SR. Okay, so Scorpion King SR, and he has bought the Rome SPQR faction. Now if we have a look at his army, I think he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, he's got 5 archer units, 5 auxiliary archer units, and I think he got just 9 infantry, only 9 infantry. But if you look at the upgrades on that infantry, can you see he's got 7 upgrades? So that's an experience, stripe, gold shield, gold attack on each one of his units. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to, he's got the general infantry unit and an eagle unit. Okay, so he's got a lot of morale in that army. Not only have they got an experience stripe on each unit, but they've got an eagle unit and the general morale bonus there as well. And he's got 6 cavalry. Let's have a look at the upgrades on his cavalry. I believe it probably be set. Yeah, you got 7 upgrades on his cavalry. So he's got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack on his cavalry. So there's the enemy team there. As I say, you got Spain, and you've got Britannia in this this enemy army, as well as Rome. Should be interesting to watch. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle, you can see that I was over on the left flank there, and the actual plan is for me to move over to the right flank, over to my JGP ally and my Thrace ally there. So if you notice, as I'm moving across there, you'll notice that I'm using my cavalry to actually get between the infantry and the enemy team. I'm just thinking, if the enemy team try a lightning attack on my Germania army as I'm moving across, can you see how I'm using my cavalry to actually cover my infantry every step of the way as I move my infantry over to the other flank there? Okay, because I can see enemy cavalry moving around over there, and I don't want them to attack my Germania army, because not only will they cause casualties, but they could spark off my berserkers before I want them sparked off, if you see what I mean. And of course, as I said, when the berserkers get activated, the Germania general loses all control over them, and that's what the enemy would like to do. But as you can see here, I'm covering my infantry with my cavalry all the way across to the other flank there. So remember, if you do that, if you do ever have a battle plan where you have to move over to the other flank, make sure that you cover your running infantry with your cavalry to stop any kind of exploitative enemy cavalry attacks that could smash into the flank of your running troops. So as I say, you can see that my cavalry cover my infantry every step of the way there as I move over to the other flank. Newer players to Rome Total War, it's not a bad tactic to look at there if ever you do have to move your infantry in front of enemy troops. But you can see I've managed to safely get over to where I wanted to get to, which is over to the other flank. As you can see, the terrible Turk has moved his Thrace pikemen forward there to face the enemy. Remember, he's only got 9 pikemen there, but as I say, he's got his 6 archers. Unfortunately for Thrace, the archers are only short-range archers. So if an enemy team with long-range archers kept their archers out of range of these guys, they could kill them without them suffering any casualties. Right, you can see Scorpion King SR being very aggressive with his cavalry there, trying to take out those archers. Notice he hasn't got his cavalry in wedge formation, they're just in ordinary formation, so they're faster like that. In wedge formation, you'll find that they're a little bit slower than in normal formation. As you can see, you could call that formation the block, the normal block formation there. If you notice there, he's still chasing after those archers. He'll probably intercept that Thrace cavalry unit there. There you can see the SPQR there. Can you see he's alt attacking? He's fighting with his swords there, not with his light lances. But if you notice there, he's going to tactically withdraw. His fact, it's been routed. That unit has now been routed. But as you can see, Scorpion King, as usual, being extremely aggressive there with one of his cavalry units. Okay, so we've got a lot of missile troops here. As I say, Thrace has got 6 archers. I've got my 3 archers. I think JGP's bought some archers as well. If you notice here, I'm keeping my Germania army at the back of my allies there. Remember, my troops are very susceptible to missile damage, so I've got to keep them out of range. So that I'll keep them at the back there, and at the back I can start deciding where I'm going to attack to in coordination with my allies. So it's always a good idea to keep your barbarian army out of range of the enemy. That's why I've got my army right at the back. If you notice, I've moved my chosen archers forward to support my allies. Remember, those chosen archers got good long range and are pretty tough as well. So there will be targeting the enemy team there. Let's say those Balearic slingers of Cornovis, those Spanish Balearic slingers will do a lot of damage to those 120-man Thrace units there, which are, of course, extremely susceptible to archer damage. I can see a lot of those Thrace pikemen have already suffered some casualties. That's the problem with putting Thrace out in front of the main army there, because I notice he hasn't got any pilot shield units in front of those Thrace pikemen, so they're going to take a lot of pilot damage, I would think, there from the SBQR units. Let's say he's moving those Thrace units about quite a lot. Can you see he doesn't want to face Rome, okay, which is completely understandable. And JGP, if you notice, just pause the game for a second. Right, if you notice here, JGP is bringing his Julii Roman army down here to face the enemy SBQR army. Okay, so that's a good move there by the team. And let's say Terrible Turk is taking his Thrace army over to face Spain and Britannia, which they do a lot. They can do a lot of good against those two factions, but they will suffer a heck of a lot of damage if they try and take on Rome, and probably would end up being routed. Let's say I've got my Germania army at the back there, just waiting to see where my allies are going to attack, so I can move my Germania army forward there. As I say, those Germania infantry are like what I call shock troops. They bring them in and attack through your allies' army there into the engaged enemy units. Okay, you can see a lot of the Spain faction over here at the moment, and if you notice, there's a lot of Britannia troops there. Now, remember, we didn't get a look at Uther's Britannia army, but as they run into sight, because he had them hiding in the woods, but as you can see them running now, he's got a lot of he always brings a mixed army, a good mixed balanced army. Right, let's have a look at the head hurlers there. Now remember, these head hurlers, those heads are effective against armour, and they do bring a fear factor to enemy troops, therefore lowering the morale of enemy troops. And remember that the real head hurlers used to dip heads in lime, so even if the heads just touch the skin of the enemy, it would cause terrible burns. And in this game, as I say, those heads are effective against armour and do bring a fear factor, destabilising enemy troops, making them more susceptible to routing. Also, Uther's usually got woad warriors. There you go. He's got woad warriors. Now, these guys, if you look at their specifications, are pretty good. And in battle, you'll see they do good as well. And of course, he's got the actual chosen swordsman, the elite infantry of Britannia there. So he's got a really good balanced army there. Not the modern day Britannia army, which is based on all chariots and head hurlers. So it's nice to see a nice old-fashioned balanced Britannia army. I'll tell you what though, when was the last time you saw a battle with Thrace, Germania, Spain and Britannia in it? I bet it's been a long time since you've seen this. In fact, I can't remember ever being in a battle with so many kind of diverse factions that you don't usually see on the 31k battlefield. Okay, so there's a general overview of the battle as it stands at the moment. As I say, JGP is racing over to our left flank here to counter the enemy Rome SBQR infantry there. So that, as I say, that's a good move for our team. Put Rome against Rome, and Thrace will be able to hopefully neutralise Spain and Britannia over there on our right flank. If you notice here, I'm moving my Germania army over here to support my Julii ally, just in case he wants to hit the SBQR infantry, because then I'll just rush my troops in there to assist the attack. But as I say, our Thrace ally here, look at that Spanish general charging in, bang, as that Spanish general charges in, and then another cavalry unit, and bang, but straight into pikes. Any cavalry unit charging straight into pikes, unfortunately, is going to lose there, so the Spanish general's just been taken out, I think, there. So, of course, Spain has not got really great morale, really, either, so losing its general is not a good thing for them. But as I say, if you look at the Thrace pikemen there, they have lost a lot of men through missile damage. So, of course, the more men they lose in those units, the less morale they've got as well. Right, can you see the Spanish troops here being charged into the Thrace troops there? So that's Spanish troops and our Thrace ally there fighting it out. Be interesting to see what happens here. As I say, our Thrace allies being decimated all the time by enemy missile troops. So let's just pause the game for a second. So as you can see here, a lot of enemy missile troops are shooting into Thrace. I can see the Spanish general moving his some of his bull warrior units over. But if he's not careful, the Turk could get caught in the flank there. He's moving his units forward a lot there, but there's still some Spanish troops over there. But look at the number of left in these pike units. They've been decimated by missile fire. So, of course, the more men are lost from a unit, it lowers the morale of that unit. Let's say he's got a lot of his archers still firing into the enemy. If you notice, I've got my chosen archers still targeting enemy missile troops. And as I say, there's a lot of lot going on all over the battlefield at the moment. Can you see that Spanish cavalry right in front of JGP's infantry? Now if it just stands there, he's going to have a field day of throwing pilers into that cavalry. Can you see? I can see a lot of pilers going into that Spanish cavalry there. It's almost raining pilers into that cavalry. I think the Spanish general must have forgot. He must be concentrating on the other part of the battlefield and not concentrating on his cavalry there. But as I say, our Thrace ally, a lot of his units have been really battle depleted, and therefore the morale of Thrace, which isn't very good anyway, has been lowered. If you notice here, JGP is throwing a couple of his Praetorian cavalry units into those Spanish cavalry. So not only have those Spanish cavalry been depleted by pilers, they're getting hit by good Roman cavalry as well. Right, I'd just like to draw your attention. Here's two units that you very rarely see on the battlefield. In fact, I think Uther's the only one that bring them. And that is Britannia Barbarian Cavalry Mercenaries. Now, these are light cavalry, but with good upgrades on, they're surprisingly tough. I've seen Uther use them a lot in the past. And as I say, I think he's the only guy that brings Britannia, that brings these units as far as I've seen. And he can use those extremely effectively. Now my guess is this fast moving cavalry with good upgrades are going to smash into our archer units here. That's what he'll bring them in for. And if you notice, we've got no cavalry over this side at this moment. So if he charges that cavalry in, it's going to cause a lot of casualties to... there you go. Can you see him charge them in? And bang! As those light cavalry smash into our archer units there, causing a lot of casualties. Probably rout those Thrace archers pretty quick there. As I say, Thrace hasn't got very good morale. As you can see, the Thrace general bringing over his armoured cavalry units, and bang! His armoured cavalry units charge into those Britannia fast-moving light cavalry. Now, can you see Uther's moved his head hurlers forward? Okay, now remember those head hurlers, those heads are effective against armour, cause massive casualties, and bring a fear factor. And he's really peppering the Thrace pikemen there with those heads. You can see them coming in. There's a close-up of the heads there. If you have a close look, can you see? Remember, as I say, those heads are effective against armour and do bring a fear factor. And when they start peppering enemy lines, they can cause so many casualties that they can rout entire units just from the impact of those heads hitting. So that's a good move by Uther there. And if Thrace isn't careful, I can see Thrace being routed here. You can see Scorpion King with his elite cavalry coming around the flank of Thrace. If he smashes into the rear of our Thrace ally there, he could cause a mass rout. So as I say, things not looking very good on our right flank here. As I say, he knows Thrace, his morale's low, and he's going to smash into him, and bang, as he smashes in. Okay, we've got the Britannia head hurlers throwing heads into those Thrace pikemen there. I noticed Scorpion King's pulled his cavalry back when he saw the pikemen facing him, but Thrace is now going to be attacked by the Britannia infantry, and bang, as that Britannia infantry goes in. Right, you can see Thrace, if they get a mass rout, they could. Right, okay, let's just pause the game for a second. Right, Thrace has now been routed. Okay, our right flank after a fierce battle has now been routed. Our Thrace ally as infantry has been routed. I think he's just got 3 cavalry units left. They're battle damaged as well, and that's all he's got left. So our Thrace ally has now been routed, and our right flank has now been broken. Nice combination attack there by the enemy team. Okay, over on our left flank here, you can see JGP facing Scorpion King SR's SBQR army. But for all intents and purposes, our right flank has now been broken. So as I say, things not looking very good for our team at this time. And as you can see, the enemy SBQR cavalry have just rode in again, just to make sure the final routing of any of those Thrace pikemen that are left. Okay, if you notice here, JGP sending his cavalry over there to try and neutralise the enemy cavalry coming in on our right. You might notice that I'm running my Germania army forward here. because it looks like JGP is starting to attack the enemy SBQR infantry in front of us. Okay, so I'm running my infantry forward to support our Julii ally there. Right, you see I'm charging my cavalry in, and bang, as my Germanic cavalry charge into those Britannia troops there. Okay, I'm trying to neutralise the attack on our right flank, trying to, as I say, neutralise it as much as I can to stop them coming in on our right. Okay, let's just pause the game for a second. So as I say, our Julii ally JGP just been smashed into the flank, there by the enemy SBQR cavalry, routing one unit and looking to rout the rest of his units if it can there. That's a big hit there by the SBQR cavalry into the flank of our Julii ally. I'm moving my Germania army as fast as I can over to help our Julii ally. As you can see here, my Germania cavalry there are fighting Britannia troops. So there's a lot going on here at the moment. What I'm worried about is whether Britannia heavy chariots are going to come into this. He still hasn't committed the heavy chariots, and they could be brought in just at the right time. Okay, as you notice there, I've just activated my 3 berserkers. Okay, speed is the essence here. We need to attack those SBQR troops as fast as we can. My Julii ally there is attacking as fast as he can. I'm moving my Germania army forward as fast as I can here to support. But here come the Britannia heavy chariots, okay? We've got Britannia heavy chariots charging into the flank of my cavalry. We've got Britannia infantry charging in as well. Whoa, those chariots with the big fear factor they bring, lowering the morale of enemy troops, plus the great attacking specifications. Okay, my Germania general has just been routed. Okay, and remember, barbarian troops have got very poor morale anyway, so with my general being routed, I'm in big trouble now. Okay, now how often do you see Germania fighting Britannia? I think that's quite a rare thing to see on the battlefield here, but as you can see, my Germanian troops now have turned several units here to face the threat of Britannia coming in on our right flank. Okay, so it's a real mix-up there. As you can see, our Julii ally is attacking the enemy SBQR infantry, and I've moved the bulk of my Germania army over to help that. But for all intents and purposes, most of my cavalry has now been routed, I believe. And here, as I said before, how often do you see Germania and Britannia actually fighting each other? Very rare. But as you can see there, my troops are doing the best they can in trying to neutralise that attack coming in on our right flank. So there's a lot going on there. Remember, those chariots are really aggressive attacking forces there, and they do bring that fear factor. But 2 of my berserkers there, can you see, have charged in to a mixture of enemy SBQR infantry and Britannia infantry there. So I say there's a lot going on. Remember, the enemy are Britannia, and then can you see a lot of our allies' Julii units are starting to rout. Okay, our allies' Julii units are starting to rout now. So I say, looks like the enemy, after breaking our right flank, are starting to roll us up from right to left. Okay, that's what it looks like is happening here at the moment. That Britannia attack was timed just nicely there as he charged in. So they've got the Britannia army and the chariot still attacking here. You can see my Germania army is trying to support my Julii ally as much as I can, but with so many Julii units routing there, of course my Germania troops will know that a lot of our allies are routing, so their morale would be lowering as well. You can see another Britannia light cavalry unit charging, and bang, as it hits our Julii ally there. But you can see I've got my Knight Raiders and effective against armour axemen there fighting. So remember, those Knight Raiders and Berserkers bring that fear factor that lowers the morale of enemy troops. Okay, so that's why I'm hoping here we're going to be able to rout some of those enemy troops. But as I say, the situation is pretty dire at the moment. I see some of our Julii allies units have rallied there and have come back into the fray fighting Britannia. So really well done for JGP. As I say, my Germania army is the bulk of it is fighting SBQR units over on the other flank. Okay, so we just routed some of the units there.
The enemy has killed the leader of your allies. Avenge him. His warriors weep and lose heart.
So I see some of my Berserker units are charging into the rear of SBQR engaged troops there, which I think would rout that unit. There you go. That SBQR unit has just been routed. It's the same, my Germania army there, in coordination with my Judo ally. They're doing quite well. I see some of the Thrace units have now rallied and are charging back into the rear of engaged enemy troops. Nice hit there by our Thrace ally, routing some of those enemy SBQR units there. Nice hit there. So let's say we see a lot of the enemy routing. Remember, we are Thrace, we are Red Julii, and we are Germania. The enemy are Britannia, Spain, and SBQR. Okay, so we're not doing too badly here. Bearing in mind we lost our right flank quite early. Okay, you can see the SBQR troops there fighting my Knight Raiders and effective against armour, axemen and a berserker unit. So their morale's going to be low. All we could do is nice cavalry hit in the rear, and there goes the Thrace cavalry straight into the rear of those engaged enemy troops. Nice hit there by our Thrace general. Routed the enemy there. Nice hit there. So as you can see here, it looks like our team has managed to go on and win this battle. I've got to be honest, after our right flank was broken and we saw a lot of our Julii allies units starting to rout, I thought we'd lost that. So for this battle, I really do think that we kind of snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. It's an old saying, but I think it's very true there. Right, can you see this Eagle unit moving forward towards now? It's battle damage, so I think, there you go, it's routed. Now, to see those Knight Raiders attacking. Remember those Knight Raiders, as I say, they got a fear factor. They lowered the morale of that already battle damaged unit, and that battle damaged enemy unit routed before contact even. That's how much fear factor can do to enemy troops. So it's always good to have the Knight Raiders as well as the Berserkers in your Germania army. As I say, this is an old Germania army of mine, maybe 10, 11 years old, but it still seemed to do quite good on the modern day battlefield against really good enemy players. Okay, I can see there's one very, very battle damaged SBQR cavalry unit attacking here. Scorpion King still attacking there. Let's go in with his cavalry. Notice they put their spears down and bang as they hit that Julii infantry. But remember, usually cavalry fighting infantry, the cavalry unit will usually lose. There you go. There's already a battle damaged unit anyway, and say just routed that unit there. So as I say, our team is looks like it's managed to go on and win. Okay, the first thing I'd like to say is, as you can see, it says an average victory there, but I think really that should have been a close victory. I don't know what you guys think. It seemed more of a close victory than an average victory to me. I think we must have just scraped in there. But just like to draw your attention to that very old Germania army of mine. See how I've managed to scrape in with the most kills there. So it just goes so even an old army that's 10 or 11 years old can still do well on the modern day battlefield against really good modern players there. So I was very pleased with that. And well done to Scorpion King SR. He got some good kills too. 1,625 there. So really well done to him. I don't think Kornovo probably got the kills he wanted to with Spain. But of course bringing Spain is always kind of a bit of a challenge on the 31k battlefield. But I just thought for our 360th, this is an unusual battle because of the factions that's in it. Germania, Thrace, Spain, Britannia, as well as Rome. So I thought it was an interesting battle for our 360th, and I hope you enjoyed it. As I say, that old Germania army of mine, if you use Germania correctly with those shock troops, they can be battle-winning troops, but use them wrong and they will rout. Okay, so Spartan Commander saying bye for now. I hope you enjoyed the battle.